Well, did you ever wonder why a big change like menopause in a woman's life is just not discussed and kept so hush-hush? Well, I would like to help change that with this video.
Hi everybody, it's Linda. Welcome back to Tips for You. Well, today I want to talk to you about menopause. Menopause. I whispered it to be funny, but because really so many women don't talk about menopause and there isn't a lot out there for women on this subject. It's been a hush-hush subject for years and years and years, almost like a taboo. I think because it's associated with growing older. And that's unfortunate because we are such a youth-obsessed society that it makes women feel like they have to retreat about this and keep it to themselves and keep it quiet. But really, there's so much we can share with each other. It's not something to be afraid of or worried about. It's something to share, to understand, to accept. It's not a disease. It's a natural course of life. It's something that you are in a process of. It's a tremendous change. It's a prominent change in a woman's life. It affects her emotionally, physically, as well as mentally. And it affects almost every area of your body, not just your ovaries or the lack of your period or changes in your period, but it affects your liver and your brain and fat cells and your uterus and your ovaries and your adrenal glands. They take a big part in this as well. So I want to discuss those things with you today. And if you're one of my younger viewers, I'm so glad you tuned in because this is really good information for you to be aware of. Because being a hush-hush subject, a lot of people aren't going to inform you about it. And believe it or not, you're going to start this kind of process of menopause in your 30s. That's where most women begin. And we really don't know that. I didn't know that. No one ever told me. My doctors never told me. My gynecologist never told me. Many women go to the doctor for many different things, wondering what's wrong with them because they're treating like one symptom at a time, whereas if they really knew that this may have something to do with the effects of the decrease in estradiol or estrogen hormones at this time, they would understand that this could be a normal process for them. And there are so many different symptoms, many. Each woman is different. I'm going to list all the symptoms that a woman can experience, and I'm probably not even going to hit them all. There are so many, and each woman experiences it differently, and some women have none at all. Some women skate through the menopausal years with hardly a hot flash, and other women have so many things and so many issues to deal with, and it's such a difficult change for them. And I'm going to share my experience, and I fell kind of somewhere in the middle. I was proactive about it, and hormone replacement therapy, while it was offered to me by my doctor, as well as estrogen replacement therapy, pills and creams, is not an option for me. I prefer to take the natural approach, and that's what I'm going to share with you. Natural things that you can do to help yourself through these years and this process, because it is a process, and your body is trying to help you adjust to it. And I never second guess my body. I always believe that my body knows what's best for me. So I chose to help it and to make the changes that I needed to make to help me feel better whenever I noticed that something became a problem. And I'm hoping that this video will resonate with you, and it'll help you as well if you're in my particular situation where hormone replacement therapy was not for you. And I'll talk a little bit more about hormone replacement therapy later in this video. And I'm going to share with you what I went through, what's worked for me, and then I have a little segment too for the men in our lives, because this is going to be a trying time for them as well, and they may not understand everything that we're going through. So I have some words for them that I hope will be helpful, and you can share it with them, or if they're watching, then great, they'll understand their women better. So let's get into it, and the first thing I want to explain to you is what is menopause and what is perimenopause, because this video is talking about both. Now, menopause is when your period stops. It's the complete cessation of menstruation. It is the end. But the period before the end of your menstruation is called perimenopause. And it's mainly the estrogen estradiol, which is responsible for fertility. And when you reach puberty, estradiol starts rising all through your teens, and it kind of peaks in your 20s. And then if you're on the other side of 30, if you're over 30, you're more than likely experiencing now a decrease in estradiol. Every year it decreases more. Doesn't mean you can't have children. Of course you can. You're still fertile. You can have children. It's just your body is now descending. It's preparing for where you're not going to need that anymore. Your body decides when it's the best time to be fertile for you and when it's no longer time for you to have a baby. And that's what that process is until the estradiol just stops being produced by the ovaries and you no longer get your period, and that's menopause. And if you've not gotten your period for 1 year, then you are said to be in menopause. That's officially menopause. And then there's the postmenopausal period too, where things are still regulating and you're still experiencing symptoms of, like hot flashes and things like that to be aware of.
And there are other hormones that are impacted during your menopausal years, not just estrogen, but luteinizing hormone and follicle-stimulating hormone. Both of these hormones become elevated daily instead of only around your mid-cycle, as was the case during your menstruating years. And luteinizing hormone is a very strong vasodilator because it opens the blood vessels and allows the body heat to come to the surface. It's probably the one that's responsible for the hot flashes during and after the menopausal years. So I have some more information and statistics for you. The menopausal years include 2 or more premenopausal years, 1 or more menopausal climax years, and about 5 years immediately post-menopause. Most women in North America experience natural menopause between the ages of 40 and 58, with the average age being 51. Some women, however, will experience menopause in their 30s and 60s. And genetics plays a big part in when you will go through menopause. So your best predictor of when you will go through menopause is when your mother and sisters did. A whopping 85% of women will experience hot flashes during menopause. 80% of women who get hot flashes will get them for up to about 2 years. The other 20% will experience them for a decade or more. And a small percentage of women will continue to have hot flashes into their 70s and 80s. I sure hope I'm in that 80%. And when menopause occurs due to surgical removal of the ovaries, then 100% of the women will experience hot flashes. So how do you know you've started the process of menopause?
Well, the first way you can tell, I think, is with your periods. If they start to become irregular at all, maybe they become lighter or less days or a different color, or they become heavier, like you go from a change where they were just a certain way and then suddenly they become heavier. That's a sign as well. So that can tell you that you are now into the perimenopausal phase of your life, and it can take years, okay? It can take 12, 15 years to go through it. The average is 8 years. I think for me, it was much longer. So everybody is different, and how sensitive you are to what your body experiences and what you're going through is going to determine how long yours is. I notice everything about myself. I'm very in tune to my body, so I'll be able to know when things are off right away. And I remembered asking my doctors, different things. And I never got an answer like that. I was never told, hey, those are all signs of perimenopause. They would say, okay, that's no problem. But that was it. And nobody said to me, that's due to the fact that you're approaching menopause. You're in perimenopause. It could last a while. You might be experiencing this or that.
And for me, it began probably in my mid to late 30s, ever so slightly, very small changes. I remember the most notable change being a variation in color, and once in a while a shorter duration, but it was still really regular, and I probably only noticed that maybe like once or twice a year. When I got into my 40s, I started to notice more mood things, and in my late 40s came the most noticeable changes with my period. And I experienced spotting, painful ovulation. I started missing periods. And they were very short in duration sometimes, maybe like only a day I would get it for. And I also remember they were quite erratic.
I would get it, first regularly every month like normal, and then it would be every 2 months, and then maybe every 3 months, and then it would be like back to every month. And it, so it ebbs and flows. It was very erratic. And then the span got longer and longer, and that was just before the actual menopause. And then it just, one day it stops. As you get closer to menopause, you start developing those hot flashes, or flushes that they call them, and a lot more of the symptoms, emotional symptoms, and it's, symptoms affecting your whole body, even digestion. There are so many things. And then I was offered the hormone replacement therapy, and as I told you, that's really not for me.
Hormone replacement therapy is designed to replace the female reproductive hormones that naturally decline during your menopausal years. It is usually prescribed to help reduce the symptoms of menopause, like hot flushes and flashes, vaginal dryness, and depression. And there can be side effects to taking HRT. And those side effects can be bloating, breast tenderness, and swelling in other areas of the body. Headaches, mood swings, depression, nausea, indigestion, leg cramps, vaginal bleeding, acne, back pain, and these side effects may be more bothersome than the actual menopausal symptoms themselves. Another negative for using HRT is many women can experience a sudden onset of menopause when they go off of HRT, rather than the slow, gradual process the way your body wants to prepare you naturally. And while the intensity of the hot flashes may be reduced in women who take HRT, the duration can increase. A woman on HRT can experience hot flashes more than twice as long as a woman who does not take HRT. So that means a woman taking HRT may have hot flashes for 5 years rather than for 2 years. And hormone replacement therapy carries a whole host of risks as well. There is an increased risk of ovarian cancer, breast cancer, cardiovascular disease, blood clots, and stroke. And, in fact, in a recent review in The Lancet from February 2015, it showed that HRT nearly doubles the risk of ovarian cancer. Evidence collected from 52 studies that followed 12,110 postmenopausal women who used hormone replacement therapy. 55% of them developed ovarian cancer. This is statistically significant, and risk was increased even with less than 5 years of use. And there was still an excess of endometrioid tumors 10 years after stopping HRT. If you would like to read the full review yourself, I will place the link in the description box.
So, what are all of these symptoms that women get? Let me describe them to you. There are many.
Okay, ladies, here goes. Hot flashes and hot flushes, night sweats, lack of sleep or insomnia, heartburn, heart palpitations or heart flutters, migraines, anxiety, nervousness. You can get easily irritated at this time or even aggressive. Feeling stressed, not feeling like yourself anymore, vertigo, depression, dizziness, brain fog, intense sadness, wanting to be alone, feelings of hopelessness, lowered libido, weepiness, onset of rage, aching joints, sore breasts, bloating, swelling, dry skin, itchy skin, vaginal dryness, constipation, digestive issues, low blood sugar sensitivity, dry mouth, thinning hair, wrinkles becoming more pronounced, skin laxity, urinary tract infections, incontinence, and a reduction in self-confidence and self-esteem, which with all this going on, of course that could possibly happen.
Now you see why it's so important for women to share with each other about menopause and perimenopause. It's a natural process, and we can help each other so much to understand what works for me, what works for you. Please post in the comments below if something's worked for you to help people with all these symptoms.
And please also share in the comments any other symptoms that I did not include on my list that you may have experienced.
Okay, so let me share with you what I went through and still go through, because like I said, it's a process. So once you get into that area of your life where you start developing hot flashes, I think you're getting close to menopause. Okay, so let me share what I experienced with my process of menopause with you. Okay, so we have hot flashes and hot flushes. Those started for me very small, mostly when I would wake up in the morning, and also in the middle of the night if I woke up to go to the bathroom, then I would feel a hot flash.
I also want to mention to you that you will eventually get hot flashes during the day as well. I thought I would escape that, but I didn't. And I usually would get them during the day when something annoyed me or got me upset or stressed out. All of a sudden, I would get a hot flash. Hot flashes can actually occur with surges of adrenaline as your adrenal glands begin to take over the production of hormones for you. And now I'll tell you what they feel like.
And what they feel like is basically I would feel heat in my stomach and sometimes in my back, and then it would just rise all the way up into my head and in my eyes and in my face. I feel it in my lips, like everywhere. And sometimes you sweat a lot. Summers were hard because the summertime is when I just couldn't handle the heat anymore. I have an air conditioner in my room now.
So just to give you a gauge, from the time of menopause to the last year after that, I'm over a year now past it, I've gotten probably about 5 to 10 per day, but that's an average. Some days I'll probably only get like 2, and other days I could get, closer to 10, because it just fluctuates and it varies.
So, that part of it is hard, and so is the sleeplessness and insomnia. And there are good sides to that because I am able to be very creative at night, but I have to take real good care to try to make sure I get enough sleep, because getting enough sleep really helps you in this period of your life. It's so important. So I have a routine. I try not to be on the computer before bed. I try to have a wind down time, a cup of tea. I try to keep my room cool, and that all helps me get into the process of sleeping better. But sometimes, despite my best efforts and everything I do, I still can't sleep and I'll be up. And so, what are you going to do? I try my best. But the sleeplessness is something. Heart palpitations. Now this I didn't know. I didn't really know because they started when I was so young. I mean, when you're far away from menopause, it's hard to think that could be hormones. So I remembered I was about 42 or 44. I think I was 44, and I started to develop like a flip-floppy heart and kind of sometimes fluttering going on. And it was very alarming for me and upsetting for me, and it was very infrequent at first. Barely noticeable, but like I said, I noticed everything. So eventually I ended up in the cardiologist's office, who did a full workup on me, including an echocardiogram, told me I'm completely normal and everything is wonderful, but never told me that it had to do with hormones. I never knew that. I found out that information reading on my own. And I'm just glad, anybody who has any kind of experience with their heart, or even their thyroid, which sometimes gets a little rocky too during this time, see your doctor. You always want to be sure that there is nothing else going on. Don't dismiss health issues that they're just hormones. If you find nothing else is wrong, then you can assume it's hormones, and then you can understand more about your body. But when you get some odd thing that you've never had before, then you should always check it out. And that's what I did.
Before I move on, I just want to address the onset of heavy menstrual flow or heavy bleeding. Some women do experience that. I did not experience that, but if you do, best to get it checked because you want to make sure that it is not a sign of something more serious like a problem with your uterus or perhaps an infection. And you'll also want to get your iron checked because with that type of heavy bleeding, it's very easy to become anemic, which will only exacerbate your stress symptoms and your tired feelings. So be sure that you're on top of that. Okay, now let's get back to what I experienced.
Anxiety. You will get anxiety and anxious over like nothing sometimes or something. And it's hard to control that now. Whereas maybe you used to be more easygoing and things didn't bother you, now all of a sudden maybe they do. Maybe smaller things now get you upset, get you nervous and upset, and it's not the way you normally were. So sometimes things would get me upset or nervous or stressed. I was feeling stressed much easier. And I'm going to give you some remedies next on how you can deal with your symptoms and your stresses because that's really the best remedy that there is. Also, depression. Yes, I got depressed. I think we all do. I don't think there is one woman alive who didn't experience some depression during her perimenopause or menopausal years. I just think that's what happens. I think it's the brain chemicals are being affected as well by the change in your hormones. They're all so tied together, and I think that is why some days you are just going to feel depressed, sad, not sure why, or maybe you will know why. You look at your life and it just looks so upsetting to you. Meantime, you have all the same wonderful things that you always have, or maybe not. Maybe you're going through a hard time. Maybe you have an aging parent that's a problem, or there are problems in your relationships or with your children. Well, those are going to be exacerbated by your hormonal fluctuations. And they were for me, and they probably will be for you. But the good news is that you snap out of it. You're not going to stay depressed forever. You're not going to stay like that because it does, go up and down. And before you know it, you're on the up instead of the down. And that's what I found. I found that, if I could make it through certain periods of time, certain types of symptoms, that those symptoms would now go away, but then new symptoms would come up. So just keep that in mind, that you kind of wrestle and deal with one thing, probably because you take steps to try to deal with those situations, and then something else pops up, and so then you have to find a way to deal and cope with those situations. There's things you can do. I'm going to get into that in a minute, but let me finish telling you all the things that I had. Brain fog was a big one for me. You literally just start forgetting your words and things, and I have very high recall on everything, for work, for personal life. And suddenly I remember actually having this when I was pregnant too. All of a sudden it was just like short circuit, like I can't remember what I was about to do or say, or where I put something, or an event in my life, whatever. So you're probably going to experience that as well. And I also experienced dizziness and very keen sensitivity to surges in blood sugar, when I was hungry or hadn't eaten in a bit. Like it's very helpful for me to eat periodically and graze in that way, because as soon as it had been a while since I had eaten, I would feel dizzy, lightheaded, and almost like I could faint. And it's all because, the regulation of your body with the hormones now, it affects your blood sugar. So I, reach for something nutritious, something with something with whole grain carbs, protein, something, nutrition is a really important time now for you. Make your calories count. That it leads me to another thing, heartburn and indigestion. You're not going to be digesting the same. So I experienced that. Certain foods that I was always able to eat, they would really be a problem for me. I remember distinctly being at one of my son's lacrosse games, and after lacrosse they would have these spreads of food, and I always looked forward to that and loved it. And they had like chicken parm, and they had like penne alla vodka. And I love those foods, but they are, the chicken parm was, deep fried, and I have to say I had indigestion the entire day and night after eating it. I just don't eat those foods anymore. I don't eat deep fried foods. I'm careful what I eat. I eat more wholesome foods. Even if I'm at a party, even if I want it, I just know it's not worth it repeating on me all night long and having heartburn. So I don't eat it. Wanting to be alone, I did experience that. That was one of the things that I felt I needed time to myself, just to chill, and I started my daily walks then. I have been doing that for over 10 years, just walking every day. And I think it's really helpful, and it helps you meditate, it helps you get in touch with yourself, it clears your mind. So find something, yoga, Tai Chi, walks, that is really going to help you that way. And probably the last one I can say that I experienced was drier skin. So I used to, I mean, my skin, it depends on the season, but I used to pretty much have more oily skin, and now my skin is only a little oily in the summertime. So your skin gets drier, your oil glands do shrink. That's why it's so important that you be careful what you put on your face, and I spoke about that in the Retin-A video, because they are targeting Retin-A for, you know, older women, menopausal years, perimenopausal years, and you are in a state of flux with your hormones and your fat cells are shrinking, and now you've got thinner skin, and because of that, I think it is not suitable for older skin as an anti-aging beauty treatment. So now let me share with you some natural remedies that will help get you through this time. And basically it's going to be about adding more phytoestrogens into your diet. Phytoestrogens are plant estrogens, and they come from plants. Virtually every plant on the planet has estrogens.
Phytoestrogens or plant estrogens can help support your estrogen receptors by binding to them and acting as hormone regulators. As your reproductive hormones decline, your adrenal glands and fat cells begin to take over and produce estrogen. One of the best things you can do is to support your adrenal glands as soon as you notice you're in perimenopause.
Okay, so here's a list of the phytoestrogenic foods that you can add to your diet that will be very helpful during your menopausal years.
And the first food is beans. Beans are exceptionally rich sources of phytoestrogens. In fact, virtually all beans are rich sources of isoflavones, coumestans, and lignans. The beans must be cooked. Some of the best beans with phytoestrogens are baby limas, yellow split peas, red kidney beans, lentils, both the red lentils and regular lentils, and soybeans. And I started adding lots more beans to my diet.
Not only did they help my mood because of their fiber and carbohydrate portions to them, but they are loaded with phytoestrogens. The best ones were the lentils. They really helped a lot, and the edamame. Edamame, you know, soy products, they are very helpful. And I know a lot of people say that soy is not good for you, but Asian women have been eating soy for generations and generations, centuries even. It's a mainstay of their diet. And the only ones that I was using was edamame. Non-GMO, organic, certified edamame. I buy them frozen, and I would, you know, cook them on the stove, and I would add them to smoothies or in salads. You don't need to overdose yourself on these things. I find that if you're having a tough time, even just a quarter of a cup of edamame, even every other day, helps you. These things help so much. And I noticed with the edamame, I noticed help right away.
Now you may be wondering, what about the concerns of soy and its isoflavones as it relates to the risk of breast cancer? This has been a subject that has been tossed back and forth for decades. Well, I'd like to share a recent study with you about that. According to a recent large and ethnically diverse 10-year study that was published in the journal Cancer in 2017, isoflavone, the major phytoestrogen in soy, was found to have a beneficial effect on women with breast cancer. The study involved data on 6,235 women with breast cancer in the United States and Canada between 1995 and 2015. Researchers found that women with the highest consumption of soy, about 1/2 to 1 serving a week, were 21% less likely to die compared to those that consumed lower amounts of soy during the 10-year period. The data showed that soy consumption in breast cancer patients is not only safe, but also beneficial. Number 2, leafy green vegetables and cruciferous vegetables, things like cabbage, broccoli, kale, spinach, mustard greens, and collard greens. They are best consumed cooked because of their high oxalate content. Number 3, fruits and berries. Fresh fruit, dried fruit, frozen or cooked. They're all excellent sources of isoflavones, lignans, and other phytoestrogens. And if you have a hard time getting more fruits and vegetables into your diet, try adding smoothies. That's what I did. My diet was already rich with vegetables and fruits, but I wanted more, so I added smoothies. And number 4, essential fatty acids and omega-3s, so important for the production of female hormones. Things like fish and salmon, sardines, ground flax seeds, walnuts, almonds. And I love nuts. I eat a lot of walnuts and almonds. Avocados, eggs, and olive oil. And olives are great sources of essential fatty acids and excellent sources of phytoestrogenic coumastans. So I added my flax every day. I also added salmon to my diet as well as fish oils and had those regularly. The fats are really important for helping produce hormones. You're going to need the extra fat now in your body because you're going to be losing fat when you lose estradiol. You start to lose your fat layers, so you need to replace some of the fat in your diet. It helps you ride those hormonal waves. It helps with the night sweats. It helps you deal with the production of the estrogen hormones. Number 6, whole grains. You'll want to add whole grains to your diet. Not only are they loaded with phytoestrogens, but they have fiber and carbohydrates. They'll help keep your moods balanced, and they're a great source of energy. They definitely help keep my energy levels up so that I can exercise, and they keep my mood balanced too. The best sources are oats and oat bran and barley and brown rice and whole wheat and wheat germ and flax. And you'll want to have more root vegetables like beetroot, carrots, sweet potatoes, and dandelion. And you'll want to have plenty of garlic, onions, chives, leeks. They're all very hormone-rich plants. And I consume a lot of garlic and onions. I always have. It's a regular part of my cooking, so that was an easy one for me. And finally, pomegranate. Pomegranates are rich in plant hormones. It is also one of the few plants that contains human hormones. It contains the human hormone estrone. And I've typically used pomegranate powder, which I will link below. I found it super easy to put into smoothies. And then my big be-all to end-all, which helped me so much, was chocolate, dark chocolate. And I find that if I'm feeling down or upset or lack of energy, if I have a few dark chocolate covered almonds or a piece of dark chocolate, it works magic for me, literally. I'm not afraid to have the extra sugar or the extra fat or whatever. I'm not having tons of it. Chocolate is actually very healthy for you, especially dark chocolate. It's loaded with antioxidants, and its flavonoids are more powerful than vitamin C in limiting free radical problems in your body. So I love it, and I do consume it regularly, and it really does work for me. And maybe it will help you too. So there you have a nice list of phytoestrogenic foods that you can add to your diet to help ease your menopausal symptoms. And for you to process them in your body and turn them into useful estrogens, they have to be digested properly. And that's why it's super important for you to have really good and healthy gut bacteria. So probiotics, ladies, are really important during your menopausal years. You've got to have yogurt regularly,
cheese, and I know people say cheese is really bad for you, but cheese is loaded with beneficial enzymes and it's really good for you. And you need the calcium because you want to build bone density. Bone density is going to be one of your biggest challenges as you age, and therefore you really need to pay attention to building good, strong, healthy bone and muscle tissue throughout your life, and get a jump start on that. Start doing that as soon as you notice some changes, some perimenopausal changes. Don't crash diet. It's not healthy for you. Like the ketogenic diet, which is, I think, very one-sided, and many people are talking about using that diet. I just think you are missing out on a lot of nutrients. Keep your foods whole. Keep your diet varied. High fibrous foods are so important, as is essential fatty acids, omega-3s, super important. I started adding flax meal to my smoothies every day. I increased my intake of omega-3s through flax seeds, as well as through sardines and small fish. You can also supplement with, cod liver oil, add olive oil to your diet. There are many things that you can do. Okay. Now, there are also herbs that you can use to help you through your menopausal years, and I use those as well. They can be very helpful. They should not be abused. You should consider herbs the same way you would consider medications, and use them for a period of time. If you find that you need to, they're there for you. It's an option, and they do work. And here's a list of menopausal herbs that can help you.
I put together quite a large list for you so that you can research them on your own and see what would address your specific needs. And the ones that I listed are fennel, fenugreek, black cohosh, red clover, chasteberry, dong quai, nettle, hops, black haw, ginseng, motherwort, raspberry, sage, saw palmetto, maca root, and evening primrose oil. One of the most helpful for me was red clover, and I consumed red clover tea. I found it to be very helpful with relieving the hot flashes. I also took fennel, fresh fennel, and sometimes the supplement. Ladies, you'll find fennel helpful if you're experiencing any vaginal dryness. I also took evening primrose oil, which was quite helpful when I noticed a little bit of hair thinning. That helped a lot, as did nettle for that. And nettle is a wonderful supporter for your adrenal glands. I recommend nettle very highly. And I also took black cohosh, which I found to be very helpful as well for the hot flashes. And many of these herbs will work on multiple symptoms that you might be experiencing with menopause or perimenopause. If you're experiencing heavy bleeding or flooding, I did do a little reading about that as well, so I'd like to point you in the right direction and also give you a bit of a warning. As far as helpful herbs for you, flax can be helpful, so can chasteberry, wild yam, and shepherd's purse. So you should look into those herbs, and you should avoid blood-thinning herbs like red clover, ginkgo, dong quai, and motherwort, because these herbs may increase bleeding and flooding. Phytoestrogenic foods can be eaten liberally. However, phytoestrogenic herbs should be used as needed. Try using them one at a time to see what works for you, and if it doesn't, then you move on to something else. Whenever possible, I opted for the use of herbs in the tea form, except for black cohosh, which I bought in the tincture. My last choice is usually buying something in supplement form. However, I did add a B-complex vitamin supplement to my daily diet. Actually, I didn't take it daily. I probably took it a few times a week. I decided to add it to help support my adrenals, and because it contained biotin, which is really good for my hair growth, which I thought really helped.
Now I want to talk to you about lifestyle changes, because you're going to have to make some lifestyle changes if you want to help yourself during these menopausal years. The biggest lifestyle change, I think, is to reduce stress. Anytime you see that there's stressful things going on in your life, you've got to try to reduce stress. Do whatever you can do to reduce your stress. Walking, yoga, Tai Chi, swimming, exercise reduces stress. So make that a daily part of your life because it's real important in managing these years.
And get outside in the sunshine.
Sunshine really helps a lot with your emotions, with depression, with making vitamin D for strong bones, with building hormones in your body. It is very vital to you. So definitely get some vitamin D exposure, some sun exposure every day. It's really beneficial. Also, getting enough sleep, so important. Now, I know that's kind of an oxymoron because, you know, the symptoms that you experience cause lack of sleep, but make every effort that you can to get sleep. If you have to take little naps, do that, but try to make an effort to get your sleep, and don't let too many days go by where you're getting lack of sleep, because it's really going to escalate your stress and anxiety and nervousness levels, and it's so important for keeping you calm and emotionally stable. Give yourself some free time. This is a time in your life where you've got to make space for yourself. You've got to push things aside. You've got to minimize the workload, minimize the stress on yourself. Get help if you need it, because it's easy to get overwhelmed. Solitude is very helpful. Take time for yourself. Like I talked about, I go for walks. That's very helpful. But just in general, you know, just make some space for yourself so you can really get in touch with how you're feeling. And nurture yourself during this time, because you are going to need time to process what's going on. It's hard. It's a hard change to go through. It's, you know, but I promise you, you know what? It will pass. It takes a lot of time, but you know, things do get better, and your spirits will lift again. And it will be a time of learning about yourself and what your new needs are going to be. And you're going to emerge from it kind of like a butterfly emerges from a cocoon with a new way of thinking. Because remember, your brain chemicals are getting altered too. And your brain is going to be different. It's not going to be the same brain that it was before, and it's trying to live a life that it had before. It's not. So let it adjust. Let it take its natural course. Let your body and your mind and your emotions take its natural course, because I think that's going to be the best route that's going to serve you in the future. It's going to serve your body and your health and your bones, and it's going to make you get through it a lot quicker and a lot stronger. Try to avoid toxic things too in your diet and in your life, like alcohol and smoking, and things that induce stress in your body, because it's going to make, when you're sensitive like you are during these years, because we all get very sensitive to things, you're going to be more sensitive in your body to that. It's going to upset and throw off all your natural rhythms that are trying to right themselves and find their way.
And now I have a message for the men in our lives.
Okay, so men, I'm going to speak to you now. I want you to be really patient, because this is nothing against you. If the woman in your life starts to act very strange, not like herself, short-tempered, distant, doesn't want to be around you, withdraws, or, you know, has a short temper, or whatever it is, because it's going to be all different for every woman. I tried to name a bunch of them. It's not a reflection of you. It's going to be how she's feeling, either about herself, her moods, her body, the time in her life, whatever it is. It's her hormones causing it. It's not her, but it's causing her to react a certain way. If you can just be patient and understanding and supportive. Men have a way of looking at things more practically. So my husband thinks it's just a natural thing. He understands it. He's very supportive and very helpful. So just know that that's what she's going through, and that it will change, and it will right itself, and she will want to be around you again, and she will desire you again, and she will be happy again, and she'll be like her old self again. Not completely like her old self, because she's gone through a metamorphosis and a change, and she's learned from that things that she likes and doesn't like, and that will be a new her, but she still will be somebody that you'll want to spend time with and have fun with and enjoy growing old with. And so just be patient, okay? Because I know it's really hard, and you guys are affected as well. But just try to be really, really supportive, because it does make a big difference when you have someone to lean on. Okay, so that's my message to the men.
And one more thing, ladies, on this subject, and that is to share with your men what you're going through. The fact that it's such a hush-hush subject only means that they know even less about it than women do. So you need to bring them in and you need to let them know what's going on, because if they can understand what you're going through, then they can actually be very helpful for you.
You know, it's hard for me to recommend anything because everybody's so different and everybody's body is going to go through this differently. I was just trying to present kind of an overview of what's out there, kind of a way of thinking about it, point you in the right direction, how to approach it, to be aware of it when things pop up in your life, in your health, that you can track down and sort of get a handle on. And I hope it's really helpful for you. I hope other women will share their experience and their stories as well, because we all are going to be, going through this at one time or another after the age of 30. And I think it's really important for us to know what's going on and how we can change the world about it. And by speaking up more, I think the media will start to realize that women are genuinely interested, and that we're still interested in makeup and hair and beauty and looking great and feeling sexy and looking youthful, and that there's a whole market out there of us. And we don't just want to be told that the answer is Retin-A. That's not it. There's so much else you can do. We can do natural things. Wonderful things, and the younger women can learn from us and not dread things, but look forward to it. Look forward to not worrying about birth control anymore. How about that? That's really positive. All the years you had to worry about accidentally getting pregnant if you didn't want to have children at the time, and now you don't have to worry anymore, right? Isn't that a big load off your mind?
And there are more positive impacts in your life that menopause can make. How about no more fussing with pads and tampons? That'll save you money. No more worry of leakage, no more cramping, no more PMS, no more monthly bloating, no more worrying that it's going to disrupt your vacation or planning vacations around it, no more hormonal headaches. If you've had uterine fibroids, often they stop growing or they shrink. Many women take a fresh look at their lives and professions and relationships and make changes. Feelings of empowerment now that childrearing and childbearing and menopause are done. More time to focus on caring for yourself. And you're less apt to put on weight in your hips and thighs now that your estrogen is lower.
Excitement. Just let this menopause, maybe 2 years before it and the 2 years after it, I think are the real target zones of problems. Just kind of let them sweep away with the ocean. You know, the tide comes in and out. I used to stand at the ocean. Every summer I stand there and watch. And I think that's how life is. You know, the water comes in, it covers your feet and your legs, and it sweeps out again. And just kind of ride the waves. You know what I mean? Embrace the time. You know, understand that your body's doing this stuff for a reason. It's preparing you for a reason. And do what you can. Pay attention to your bone health, because that's real important. And all the other things you experience, you know, hair thinning, stray hairs growing, there are remedies for that. And there are things that you can do and ways that you can find help. And before you know it, your body has repaired itself. And it's found a better way of doing things. And that's what's going to happen here. So I hope I've given you lots of food for thought, some direction on which way to go, some feelings about whether you want to take the natural approach, my thoughts on that, as well as hormone replacement therapy. And I hope you'll share below any comments that you have, things that you might want to hear about. If you want to talk to me privately, that's wonderful. Send me a private message. We can chat privately about things. If you're not ready to go public with all of your information, that's wonderful. We can talk privately, and I help you any way that I can by sharing what I've learned, and I'm still learning. I'm still in the process of going through this. I'll share with you what I uncover as time goes on in videos, like I always do. Okay, and if you're new to my channel, then I hope you'll subscribe because I have something of interest to everyone and lots of great stuff coming up. And please also visit me at my blog spot where I do a lot of writing. I'm also on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, so we can stay connected there as well. Okay, well, thanks so much for tuning in. Bye-bye now.
Hi again. I'm going out for my walk. It finally stopped raining. Just wanted to say hello one more time, and I wanted to remind you how beautiful you are and how strong you are, and that it doesn't matter whether or not you can still have children. You are still beautiful and sexy and alive and smart, and you'll get through this. You'll get through this, and when you come out the other side, you're going to be even smarter and feel even better. Menopause doesn't change anything. It doesn't change who you are, how you look or feel about yourself. Menopause doesn't change you forever. Only for a short time are you going through something. And when you're done and you come out on the other side, you are going to be an even better you. Okay? So just embrace your life, enjoy it, embrace your beauty and your womanhood. You were put on this earth in this form. You will deal with it. You will get through it. Stay well, stay healthy, and stay blessed.